Welcome to The Claw. I'm Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist at Liger. The Claw is the marketing podcast for C-suite executives. I am talking today with Kate DiLeo. She is the founder of the Brand Trifecta, brand being one of the most important parts of any marketing approach, or maybe even sales. Kate, thanks so much for joining me.
Eric, thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, so talk to me a little bit about the Brand Trifecta. That's a great name. How did you come up with that?
I have no clue. No, I'm kidding. No. So the Brand Trifecta is a methodology around brand messaging that I created. And it was actually something that I came up with a bit on accident as a byproduct of my time in sales many years ago. And ultimately what the Brand Trifecta is it's the 1, 2, 3 components of your message at the top of your brand that are critical to bring your customers to the point of conversion. In other words, what you need to say to them to get them to the point where they want to take the next step with you.
Got it. Such an important thing because brand is the very tip of the sphere. It's that first thing.
It is.
Yes. So how did you end up in this space? Like what was your journey to the Brand Trifecta?
You know, I really had a zigzag career path, maybe like a lot of other leaders listening to this. I don't know as if I went to school and said, I'm going to be an entrepreneur and a CEO and a brand architect. But actually what happened for me is I was in the beginning of starting to pursue a PhD in linguistic anthropology. And the market crashed. And I had a professor that was very candid with me, Eric, and said, you know what? You should probably leave academia and go get a job and pay off your undergrad debt. And so I left school and I got a sales job. And it was in this terrible sales job where I was cold calling IT professionals to sell them training classes, where I stumbled upon the power of brand. I learned, Eric, in that job that there had to be a different way to cut through the noise in the first 15 to 30 seconds to compel somebody to want to have a conversation with me. And so I really just tested out this theory that has since become the Brand Trifecta of simply telling people, this is what I do, this is how I solve your problem, and this is how I'm different.
Yeah. Okay.
And it really worked.
Yeah.
And fast forward, that's now the method that I've taught that's been backed by buyer psychologists as well as neuroscientists as to what buyers need to know.
So you kind of got linguistic anthropologist. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that is close, right? Like, isn't that like figuring out how to talk to somebody and get them to do the thing, right?
It's interesting. You know, you always kind of joke that you don't veer too far off the path. And I think that that's totally spot on. I wanted to be a professor and do all the language stuff. And here I am doing that more in the business realm where I get to work with C-suite leaders that deeply care about having a precise message. But I had no idea at the time, of course, that it would turn into what I do today of the world of brand messaging.
So you're sitting at this, I'm thinking like Wolf of Wall Street boiler room, and you're making phone calls to IT techs and you're talking to them about this, and you kind of strike upon the fact that if you can get it down to the simple messaging, you can break through. But there's a difference in knowing how to do that and not just staying in the boiler room and becoming their best person at that and deciding to break out and do it on your own. So what was the pivot point to creating it as as its own standalone business?
There were a few factors. I think the first thing that happened for me was I ended up being at the top of my game in that sales team very quickly. And I was the new person on the team. And again, by sheer tenacity on my part to try something different, and then the luck of that, I was the top of the team. And then I actually got recruited into the marketing department to build scripts for the rest of the team.
Ah, okay.
That was the transition point. And shortly thereafter, we had one of our clients that recruited me out. So they recruited me out, and then I went into the corporate space and then into the agency space and then back into corporate. And here's what happened, Eric. I loved this pitch thing, this brand thing so much that I was a side hustler. For many years, I was just building brands on the side, and then about 5, almost 6 years ago is when I made the jump that I thought, oh my gosh, this is really what I want to do. This is actually a business. This is not a side hustle anymore. This is what I'm becoming known for. So I went all in and really devoted myself to now working with clients one-on-one to help them develop this brand structure.
But you didn't call the company the Brand Side Hustler.
No, I did not call it the Brand Side Hustler.
So,
that's a good one though.
Okay, yeah. So if you so talk to me about the importance of brand and when do people bring you in? What are some of the mistakes they're making? Like what does that world of chaos look like that you walk into with a company that needs to think about their brand differently?
I love how you talk about the world of chaos because I think that's often how it can feel for an organization. You talk about understanding, trying to get clarity around where you feel like you're underwater or where things are a bit chaotic, right? You're underwater, but you don't know why. And often the symptoms that I hear are things such as, Kate, I'm struggling to get prospects to the table, or we're getting the wrong prospects or highly unqualified prospects at the table,
right?
Or our sales cycle is terrible. Like it went from 60 days to 6 months, Kate, or I don't know what marketing's doing over there, but we're doing something totally different over here. And we're working off completely different messages and playbooks and nobody's working well together. Okay, all of these signal that something's off with your pitch, with your message. And it's never a case, in my opinion, that you have to reinvent your message, but it's often a quarter turn. It's that tightening of the bolt. It's analyzing and going, what have we said and what have we used that has gotten us this far that's worked, but what needs to shift in this current climate based on who we're trying to serve, what we're offering in the marketplace, the dynamics of our team, etc. So that's where I come in to help companies tighten that as quickly as possible so they're able to get back out there and be more effective with their sales and marketing.
Very nice. And what I like about what you're saying is, for a business to have been successful at all, someone somewhere within the organization is saying the right things in order to bring some customers across. Now, is
Absolutely.
that happening in the marketing correctly, sales correct, like whatever? So you got a mind for it. So, hey, and I love when we're building personas with clients, like getting their best salespeople on the call. It's like, talk to me about these people you talk to. Now, they don't often understand what it is about that person unless you ask them the questions, but they know it, like instinctively know, I am talking to the person I really, really want to talk to. And so as you think about that fine tuning, an important point you made is the relationship between sales and marketing. So you think those two groups need to talk to each other?
Oh my gosh, yes. And it's so hilarious because, I always talk about brand really being the glue that holds sales and marketing together. And by the way, we're in this space right now where you might have heard of something called revenue operations or RevOps.
Yes,
and there's a lot of talk about that right now, right? About what does that look for the B2B organization in our climate? Well, they can't build RevOps beyond a tech stack and really truly build revenue operations if we aren't all working from the same message stack. You can have the best tech stack in the world, but if you don't have a messaging stack that is backed into key business goals and objectives, who are we surgically speaking to and why? And by the way, what are the not only demographics, but the psychographics of those people? How they think, what's their triggers, like you're talking about? And then a message that resonates at the heart level with those ideal buyers. We can't do that. We're all doing different things and we're never actually going to get the right leads into the pipeline and then have sales be able to execute on those leads effectively.
Yeah, so there's a lot of interesting conversations on the difference between the chief revenue officer and the chief marketing officer, and is the chief marketing officer dead? And now there's the chief, like all these things, and
chief growth officer, all these things, right?
Yeah, it's
so many titles.
Swizzling the same thing. We're all still trying to accomplish some component. I've never heard anyone talk about the messaging stack. That's a really interesting. I'm totally stealing that from you.
Yes,
by
you
the
totally
way.
can.
So So, because you talk about, the tech stack, or you talk about all the, but I have not heard anyone talk the messaging. That's an interesting way to look at it. That's an interesting way to think about it.
Yeah, it's really, again, if we think about a content hierarchy for an organization,
right. Yep.
Okay. So remember how you said your brand is kind of the tip of the spear. So when I teach Brand Trifecta, in the world of messaging, by the way, that turns into your tagline, this is what we do, your value proposition statement, here's how we solve your deepest problem,
right,
and differentiator statements. Here's how we're different and better than the rest.
Right.
Okay. That's at the top of the content hierarchy. And the purpose of a brand trifecta is to bring somebody to that opt-in, that conversion moment where they're going, oh, that makes sense. Now I want to learn more. And it should naturally bring them into the next part of features and benefits, a founder story, customer profiles and testimonials, white papers, blogs, all the other rich, important content that we may have as an organization. This is all part of your messaging stack, and it's deployed through website, email, social, all the various tactics you can do. Right? But again, if it's not backed into who are we serving, a singular tone of voice and a singular understanding of what we do, how we solve somebody's problem, and how we're different, at that point, you're just throwing darts at a dartboard.
Lots of spray and pray, lots of dartboard throwing, and thinking that it's such a clean journey, because customers never follow a clean journey. It's making sure you're servicing them at the
Wouldn't
right
that be
point
lovely if it were A to B to C?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. They do this, and then they do that, and then they do that.
Right.
I'm like, no, they don't. They're so unpredictable. Nope. We have no idea. Right. Well, great. Well, we're going to go to the first commercial break. And when we come back, I want to talk a little bit about how we measure some of these things, because that's a big part of, like, if you think, one of the reasons I think we've heard the conversation of like chief marketing officer over either to rev ops or chief revenue is those sound like, oh, well, we can go from this fluffy marketing thing to something that has tangible numbers. We can hold somebody accountable. And it is an important thing, but how do you look at brand and know that brand is impacting what's happening across the organization? So we're going to take a commercial break. We'll be back in just a second. You're listening to The Claw. I'm talking to Kate DiLeo. She is the founder of the Brand Trifecta. We'll be back in just a minute.
The Claw podcast is brought to you by Liger. Liger is a hybrid marketing firm combining a brand strategy consultancy and a production house that offers the full range of content and creative services. We can be your entire marketing department or your entire marketing department's favorite people to work with. We save the world from boring, broken marketing by putting businesses in brand therapy so they can express their most authentic, memorable selves. And then we share their story so they can be known. For more information, visit ligerpartners.com and follow us on our social media platforms.
And we're back. You're listening to The Claw. I'm Eric Holtzclaw, Chief Strategist at Liger. The Claw is the marketing podcast for C-suite executives. I'm talking, honestly, probably about one of my favorite parts of marketing today with Kate DiLeo. She is the founder of the Brand Trifecta. In Liger land, we talk about BATCOM. So there's branding, awareness, traffic, conversion, optimization, and maintenance. Everyone wants conversion, but if you don't start at the beginning with a good brand, you're not going to get there. And that's where Kate lives. She lives in that world. And so, Kate, starting off, like, if I called you and I was like, I just think our brand messaging is off, like, what would you do first? Like, how would you start with an organization to get down to their brand trifecta?
Well, so I think that there's a couple layers to this, right? So if you're listening to this and you're going, I do think that some of the symptoms you listed are me. Something's off with my message. In order to go through getting to the byproduct of having a really tight brand trifecta message, the front end requires you to go through a couple pieces of work. Number one, I recommend that everybody needs to first understand, how does their company show up in the world authentically today? To write a great brand, you have to remember that brand is not aspirational. Brand is in the here and now. And so it doesn't matter who you think you're supposed to be, who you want to be as an organization in 10 or 20 years. You need to write from a place of authenticity. Now, that actually means deciding what's your brand's personality and tone of voice, believe it or not. And that needs to be bigger than the single component of one or two leaders. Who are you collectively, and what are you doing? The next piece of work is understanding.
Well, before you go on, because that's one of my favorite statements that you just made, because I've been in the middle of strategy meetings before, and we've had clients who want to build this aspirational message. And I'm like, well, you're going to have to fire your entire team.
Correct.
Because that's brand it's so important that it's authentic to who you are and what your company does, because everyone can smell it. Like, if you have a company that starts to try to present a brand message that doesn't fit, the customer smells it immediately.
You're so spot on. And it's also not only beyond being authentic from a personality standpoint, but here's the thing, what you're touching on is value delivery.
Yeah.
Meaning, if you're selling a promise that you can't deliver on, you will lose brand recognition and loyalty and customer base, period, full stop. And
Right.
you're going to lose employees. And so I always say you can have the coolest brand in the world, but if you can't deliver on that promise, we have no business writing it.
Yep.
Second, who are you talking to and why?
Yeah.
You have choice. Maybe who you served to this point does not serve you anymore. And I teach a rule of the 70%. So what I say is out of a pie of all of your revenue, so again, brand is supposed to be your path of least resistance to revenue. Okay, that's my belief. Out of revenue, you're trying to build a message that speaks to the 1 or 2 or 3 audiences that make up the majority, the 70%, where you think your money's going to come from. With a full acknowledgement, you can have outlier audiences that make up the 30%. Maybe it's people you previously served. Maybe it's referrals. For example, maybe you serve SMBs, and that's your big 70%. Now, are you going to turn down an enterprise client if they're great? No. Maybe they're your 30%, and that means you might not actively message and market to them.
Got it. Yeah.
But you'll certainly take them if they come to you. But your brand is really positioned for SMBs. So that's the second piece, is knowing who you're talking to and putting stakes in the ground to not try to be everything for everyone.
And that's a hard thing for specifically an entrepreneurial company to do. They want to service everyone. And it's like, go ahead and attract the people you want to attract. The others will trip across your doorstep. They will show up and you're going to say yes to the money. Pretty sure you are.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And it's really based on demand and remembering that we do have choice. And as a founder-led organization, for especially when you've got C-suite very involved in day-to-day decisions, I want us to think about where is your joy? Yeah. You know, when you think about the businesses you serve, right? Who actually brings you joy? Who's the easiest to serve? Who's the repeat customer? Who's the one that gives referrals? Who's the one that does not make you rip your hair out at the end of the day? You know, I love to reverse engineer your worst customer and go, well, who's your best customer? Right. And how do we speak to more of those? It's only once you know who you are and know who you're serving that you can then write that brand trifecta message. It's going to, as I always say, almost create that you get me moment.
Yeah. Yep.
That's the goal of your brand.
100%. Love it. And so as we talked in the first segment about there's this chief revenue officer. So just as the world continues, more emphasis, because a lot of money has been spent in the marketing category. And I say it's because marketing has expanded the charter of what it does. And so there's all these things that fall in it. How do I know if I'm a numbers-oriented person or I'm thinking about, what's the brand's impact on how do I measure brand's impact on my revenue?
Oof, I love this question. Okay, buckle up. Here we go.
Okay,
so,
I like it.
All right, this is so good. Okay, so let's talk about soft and then hard metrics. Let's start with some soft metrics. Some of the soft metrics are something such as, I'm on a sales call and I realize that the caliber of the leads that I'm getting, they're more qualified.
Okay.
Now, by the way that I teach sales teams to do this is if you create a list of all the demographics and psychographics of your ideal personas, you better print that sucker and it should be next to your computer. You should be able to mentally check on a sales call. Ding, ding, ding. Oh my, this is signaling to me that this person has the majority of this list. Congratulations. Qualified prospect. Okay. So level of qualified prospects. You should be able to track revenue, number of deals in pipeline, sales cycle time. Here's another one. You can actually track. I've had a couple teams that have sold B2B tech. Okay. And we actually track not only sales cycle time, but length of discovery call and how quick they were able to get to a proposal in that first call.
Interesting. Okay.
We were able to track even something as like soft as that, of going, that person was getting on a call far more ready to talk price.
Yep. I like it. So how far along are they in that decision-making process? How much time am I spending?
Correct.
How quickly? Yeah. Very interesting. Okay. That's good. Yeah.
Last but not least, hard metrics. We see a direct correlation if your message is on point to conversion metrics across your website.
Okay.
We absolutely see a direct correlation to email open rates, reply rates, and click-through rates as well if you're in B2B. Those are the most common. Now, I've got a whole other slew for B2C if you're selling through e-com, but my hope is that this kind of speaks to what a lot of us might be feeling if we're selling to other businesses.
Yeah, but I mean, I think you've told me is that it's not just one number. I have to
Nope.
look at a lot of different things.
Gosh, you do. Wouldn't it be great if there was a silver bullet, Eric? If I had a brand button that said, "Let me track brand."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is a mistake we see companies make, is they really are just focused on one thing, like how much are we converting, and what does that mean? Because conversion can mean different things. Like someone giving me their email address is a state of conversion. They've paid me with some piece of personal information that they have about them. So, when you're thinking about these brands that you're working with, and you've kind of gone through, you're trying to go through this kind of first part of it, so we can get to the point of measuring what they're doing. Where is the biggest challenge with the brand in articulating that brand message? Like, where do they struggle the most?
I think often where they struggle the most with articulating their brand is, believe it or not, creating consistency between, this is funny, between the content that marketing pushes, but then translating that into actual sales pitches. That's the number one disconnect that I see.
Got it.
So marketing, it would be so easy if marketing could say, let's go create brand in a box over here. That's marketing. That's no. Remember I always said it's the glue that ties sales and marketing together.
Yeah.
So that's why I actually never take a project unless sales is in the room, unless the founder's in the room.
Interesting. Okay.
I will not. I one time built the most incredible brand with a CMO, and it was gorgeous. We spent 6 months working on a very complex, multi-layered project. And Eric, she ended up bringing it back up to the C-suite because they had approved all the work. They shot every single piece down. It never got deployed, and she got let go a few months later.
Wow.
And I made a very hard decision. I could never do that to another person ever again.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have the C-suite in.
Yeah.
But I would say that, to go back to your question, where do people struggle? I think people struggle to stay on brand through social, if you're thinking about marketing tactics. But then I think marketers struggle to translate that into real practical talking points with sales teams.
Yep.
That's the biggest disconnect.
I like your where you've drawn the line, because I was in the research space before, and we would build these research projects and we would hand off this beautiful research, and then they didn't know how to use it, which is how I got into, we've got to do execution too, because you've got to be there to make sure. And it's such, the thing about the brand, the thing about research is it's nuanced. It's like, use that word, not that word, right? Like these little small changes that make such a dramatic impact into it being successful or not. So in Ligerland, our tagline is be known, and the clients that we work with is what we're doing is helping them to be known. And so as you think about brand and the importance of brand, what are some ways that you see that companies, how does that help companies in kind of being known when they're thinking about their brand?
I love that you guys talk about being known, because we are in a world of a lot of noise, aren't we?
Yeah.
And whether you are looking to be known within the organization or your organizational brand is looking to be known in the marketplace, it is imperative. And so the most important thing, whether it is an individual looking to be known or the organization looking to be known, I think the three most critical things you have to have clearly defined are, again, a very crisp understanding of how do I describe what we do in 5 or 6 words. Do I have a clear value statement that says this is how I solve your deepest heart pain? And then, do I have a set of differentiators, the 1, 2, 3 big bullets of how, yes, I am different and better than the competition? Whether you're a solopreneur or you have a large team, or again, you are an intrapreneur who is looking to move up the ranks inside, right?
Yep.
If we can't articulate those 3 things, we will never be known and remembered.
100%. I love your second item about that kind of deep heart thing, like the thing that they really care about, because it's probably not what you deliver. It's something else. There's some other thing that you need to understand. That's the reason that companies or individuals want to work with you. So that's a good and important and hard one to track down, because we tend to list a set of attributes or things we know how to do or whatever. And it's not that at all. It's never that.
It's never that. It's that the what you deliver, the how what is the byproduct of the heart pain you solve.
Yeah.
We solve this heart pain. Oh, by the way, how we do that are through these amazing products and services and these amazing features and benefits. And so for me, I'll tell you a quick tip is that you could do a simple exercise called the 5 whys.
Yep.
It's a root cause analysis exercise that I use with my clients that says for any target audience we've defined, at the end of the day, what's the bottom line heart pain? What do they need from us? You may say, oh, Kate, well, they need branding services. Why? Well, they need to grow customer base. Why? Well, they need to grow revenue. Why? And you begin to go down this path, Eric, and what we always know to be true is that there's something deeper. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a personal ego thing. It's altruism. It's I want to save the world. It's I want safety. I want to avoid risk. But it's getting to that thing that allows you to create a brand message that, again, creates that you get me moment.
Yep.
That you get me moment is the moment that you are known.
Nice. I like it. Well, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a great conversation. One of my favorite topics. So along the BATCOM, I love the brand part of it. It's the strategy and the stuff that then feeds everything else. And you have to get it right, because if you don't get it right, the rest of it doesn't work.
That's right.
The rest of it doesn't work. So I've been talking today with Kate DiLeo. She is the founder of the Brand Trifecta on The Claw. Kate, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Well, first of all, if you're listening and you're on LinkedIn, go ahead and find me on LinkedIn, Kate DiLeo. You can also check out my website, which is www.katedileo.com.
Very nice. Thank you so much. I appreciate you talking to me about brand. And until next time, thank you so much for listening into The Claw.